Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good afternoon. So first of all, welcome to class boarding, and my name is Dr. Muhammad Muhaizam bin Haji Musa, and I will be your instructor for this session. So today's topic is topic number 3, which is the marketing mix for the financial services. Now, first of all, we will continue from our last lecture. All right, so we would like to see continuously on the next part in our lecture, which is the role of people and physical evidence in the marketing mix. So first of all, because the financial service is in inseparable nature, and people is very important in the becoming the part of the production of the services. For example, we can see that people buy insurance, or they invest their money in banks. So because of these activities, right, the interaction that they have with the customer, which is between the bank and the customer, must have the contact with the bank employees. For example, the tellers, the customer sales rep, and the sales representative. So all of this interaction has become the determining influence of the delivery of the service by the banks for the customer to buy. In the financial service sector, it is important that trust and confidence is a very important factor in the delivery of the service. So the trust by the customer and the confidence by the customer plays a part in the what we call in the financial service delivery. So if there is no trust and there is no confidence by the customer to the bank service, therefore the quality of the service or the delivery of the said bank service might not be very effective. When we talk about physical evidence in the form of modern and appealing must exist in banks. For example, the ATM machines and the banks as well, the banks building. So for customer, they look this aspect very important matter. Customers attempt to evaluate actually the intangible services that is provided by banks by also examining the tangible evidence. So because there is no way for customer to determine their selection of service of a bank besides looking at the facilities that the banks provide. So they have to see in their eyes, okay, what is the facility that they have physically, and also whether the facility is working well or not. So that is one of the important factor of people or customer and physical evidence. Now, let us look at another point in the marketing mix, and a very important that in the marketing mix we also need to look into the aspect of product, the next P. So product, basically we look into at the product strategy. So how exactly the banks place the product. So looking at this point, product strategy is affected by the environment in which the strategy is implemented. The role of management to adopt the strategy and respond to the environment changes in a way that could actually ensure the achievement of the company's objective. So very much when we talk about strategy, they must also look into what the banks want to achieve, what are the objectives that they want to achieve. So basically looking at the 3 main aspects of the environment, we can look into several factors that can influence the product strategy. So basically, they are number one, consumer strategy, looking also at the second part, which is the competitors environment, all right, and then looking at the environment of the government, legislation, and political changes. So let us look at the next slide. So the first environment that have to look into the product strategy is consumer. So basically, the product, which is the service, must be developed to meet customer needs. That is very important. In designing the product strategy, all right, we must look into the existing as well as the future needs that the customer can be identified, that the banks identified, and also the banks anticipate from their customer. For example, this is an example in the United States, right? For example, this Midland Bank, all right, for instance, launched a telephone banking service called First Direct in 1989. So basically, in that particular year, right, 1989, is something new. So this is what we call a new product introduction, because that time they were thinking of communicating with their customer with telephone banking. So that is why they see that in 1989 the banks saw telephone banking is very important, and there is a need for the consumer at that particular time to have a more convenience and also flexibility for the consumer to actually access their banking services and also other financial services. So that's why in this situation, the anticipation by banks, they have to look at what are the needs of the customer. That's why we see that this will be an environmental changes. So at the same time, right, when we see the current situation in our Malaysian banking environment, we see that a customer are right now having the need to have more direct access of their banking services constantly, which is every time at 24 hours, right? So they need something, services that they can use banks outside their banking time. So that is why right now most of the bank, they focus on mobile banking and internet banking to actually facilitate the customer needs. So this is one example to look at the environmental changes. The highly successful new product strategy, provided that Midland had precisely anticipated the environment changes at that particular time. Now, next, we look into the competitors' environment when we look into the product strategy. So looking at the competitors, which is other banks that is competing in the with the bank, right? Activities of competitors are a good source of information for perceived trends in the marketplace. So basically, competitors provide understanding what exactly the direction of the current product trend that can be developed or can be explored. But so trend is very important in marketing. So because without the aspect of understanding the trend, so very much, the bank will left out from the market, right? For example, right now, when we see the Malaysian banking system, the trend right now is using digital banking, right? Now, particularly under watch our introduction of new services. So in the banking industry, in particular, banks often develop and introduce services that imitate their competitors or new product introduction. So basically, this kind of the bank look into doing a new product which already the customer are comfortable, and the competitor also already introduced this product in the market. So the bank follows what other banks are doing. So they do, and also it is also the bank doesn't want to be left out from the market. Exactly. So that's why they see what other banks are doing and they follow and introduce these products. Now, few services can be protected through patents. These patents is what the industry used to protect intellectual property. All right, with these intellectual properties, all right, is called IP. Right. So intellectual property is what we call the ownership of the idea. So other people, other companies, when they see that a product, all right, have a patent, means that a protection or a copyright, right? So other companies cannot copy, all right, or if they want to use the idea, they have to pay for the copyrights that is already to use for the patents. So this is a cost for banks. So we have also to look at what exactly the intellectual property does it have intellectual properties or not for that idea that is introduced by other competitors. Furthermore, imitation can reduce the cost and also risk of new product development. So essentially, competitors' environment provide what we call an easy road or a better way of doing a new product development without the bank coming out a lot of cost to develop the new product. Because developing a product for financial services can be costly. If later on we're going to learn, there are costs that have to be taken. For example, development costs, research costs, and then packaging costs. So all of these requires expenses that have to be paid by the bank. So in order to cut these costs, so better the bank copy what the market already produced. So that is one way to make what we call success in delivering the products of a bank. Now, next is most of major banks already followed the same telephone banking services as introduced by Midlands, after First Direct had been launched, proves this point. So this is example that we discuss in United States. So in Malaysia environment, we see that right now what is happening, right? One example is we can see that there is a new product, right, that introduced by Maybank Malaysia. So what Maybank introduced, for example, they introduce the use of we call QR Pay. So in this product, so this is what we call innovation, right? Using digital technology, mobile technology, and help the customer to use and make payments using their mobile. All right. So the money that is in their account, easily transacted without, the customer have to log in into their internet banking and make the transfer. So this trend, right? The idea, all right, by Maybank will be something which will be followed by other banks when this innovative idea become a trend. Means that when customers make up taking this product by Maybank more and more, so other banks will start to look and to what we call offer this innovative product QR Pay in their banking services, and this is an example of a competitor environment. Now we look into the third environment that can impact the product strategy. So looking into government and legislation and political changes. So we see that government policy, legislative and political changes can make established product less effective and can create also opportunity for developing new products. So because if there is something needs to be changed in the what you call the law, right? And or maybe there is some requirements that banks have to follow based on the guideline by the central bank. So this could be an opportunity used by banks to actually introduce new product that will facilitate the need of these new requirements, right, or rules by the central bank. For example, this one example is budgetary change. For instance, have provided tax relief on personal equity plans, and thus it has created an opportunity for organization to develop PEP mortgages. So mortgages is, for example, housing loan. Okay, so this is what we call opportunity. But sometimes changes in the government policy and legislation also can be very restrictive to the future development of new products by banks. So sometimes, you know, banks have to be aware, right, and take notice what are the rules that the central bank have introduced, looking at the guidelines, right, provided by the banks. So if such rules doesn't allow for banks to go and promote a product, for example, as what we said in the class, right, the central bank doesn't allow the use of cryptocurrency, all right, for example, Bitcoin, example, in the banking transaction. So this is something that banks have to be aware, right? But others opportunity that the banks can actually venture into, and this is actually promoted by the government as well as the central bank, is, for example, e-payments, right? E-payments or cashless payment. Okay, so this is a new what we call opportunity that banks can explore, right? And basically it is being supported by the government, right? For example, QR Pay introduced by Maybank. Now next is we look into service quality. All right, so in the next marketing mix, all right, quality is becoming increasing, right, becoming increasingly important in the financial service sector. It is an effective means, right, in differentiating financial services, since it is more difficult the quality to be copied by other banks, because this quality is something that is relevant to the provider of the service. Therefore, the customer assessment of the service quality is based on the process, which is the functional, and the outcome of that service. So the process relates to the way in which the services is delivered and includes factors such as the way staff behave towards customers, the quality of information provided, the speed of response, to the question by the customer, and the extent to which the banks, the institution, creates trust in customers. So this is very important, how quality can be seen. Now, according to this person, right, they suggest that service quality is appraised by customer through 10 criteria as follows. Number 1 is the tangible, looking at the physical evidence. Then looking into reliability. Then responsiveness, which is the willingness and readiness to provide the service. And then communication, which is keeping customers informed in a language that the customer understand. Credibility, which is honesty and trustworthiness. Security, which is the physical and confidentiality, looking at how secure the system is. Then competence, looking at the possession of required skills and knowledge of the employees, which is the skill, right? How well the employee, the staff, doing their job. And then number 8, courtesy. So courtesy is looking at the staff politeness, respect, and friendliness in the delivery of services. And number 9 is understanding, right, which is the bank staff knowing the customer needs and requirement. And finally, access. So looking at the ease of approach and contact, such as opening hours, queues, and phones. So these are the 10 criteria that the authors here has suggested how service quality is being appraised, is being evaluated by customer. Next, we look into aspect of branding. Branding is very important in marketing mix. We in the product development as well. Branding is another service features that creates its identity in the marketplace. Even though branding is very important to goods, it is becoming very important also to services. Given that intangibility makes it more difficult to evaluate the quality of services, customer tends to use the brand name as an indicator of such quality of the service. So brand name, or what we call how in the mind of the customer when they want to talk about the quality. So usually they relate this quality perception, right, looking at the brand name. For example, when customer talk about Maybank, for example, so Maybank is easily known, right, to have a brand name means that it is a brand, Maybank. So when we talk about Maybank, right, people can also see, for example, this the logo used by Maybank, all right, the lion logo, right, and also the color that they use, right. For example, the color black, right, and also the yellow, right. So black and yellow. So this is also a brand that can be seen by customer. So this is in the mind of customer, right, when they see brand. So it's easy for them to identify services of the bank, the quality basically. So very important, a brand name have to be preserved by the bank. They don't want that what they have built up, right, in the brand, right, to be what you call deteriorate, or to be less will affect the brand name. Because when there is impact to the brand name, for example, suddenly, right, people, they don't believe anymore Maybank name. Maybe Maybank, faces what we call deterioration, or something like difficulty in several services, or maybe customer become distrust about Maybank's product. So the long-term effect of the bank, maybe the brand name of this bank will become deteriorate, becoming less. So it's not good for that bank in the future. So they have to maintain their brand, because brand, right, is going to identify the service of the bank. Therefore, we can see that customer reliance on the brand name becoming even more critical for financial service, given the high risk involved. Risk because customer give money to banks, right? So this is one of the risks. And also banks deals with loans, giving loans to borrowers, right? So these are risks that banks face, because loans, right, if customer doesn't pay, become default. So when a default loan happens, so this will be a risk for banks. So, right? So next, we look at the success of a bank or other financial services like insurance company depends a lot of trust and confidence generated by the brand name. For example, as what we use already, Miss Maybank. Others is like Citibank, Public Bank is an excellent example. You can see later on. So we move on. Now, the next part for in the marketing mix is looking at the distribution strategy. So what are those strategy that is used to distribute the products? So let us see first. Now, traditionally, distribution of financial service was done primarily through established full service bank branch. Now, however, not always feasible nowadays because the high cost of operation in delivering those type of service in their banks only. Like brick banks, okay? Yes, those are full service bank branch. Therefore, customers' expectation also have dramatically changed towards emphasizing convenience, availability, and competitive elements of banking service products. To meet the new requirement of customers and to remain competitive, banks have employed advanced technology to deliver their banking service. For example, the ATM machine, and also mobile banking, for example, FPOS, right? So these are examples of new delivery of services or distribution. So ATMs, right? For example, most of them, they are being located within near to customer. For example, in the store, shopping market, schools, supermarket, train station, airports, sometimes near to workplace, like say for example UUM, right? They have a ATM machine at the entrance of the university gate, right? Whatever place, wherever that is easily what we call reached by people or customer. As long as the place have a substantial human traffic, which is the center of people to meet or to gather, right? Now, let us see in this distribution strategy. So basically, we look into the people, the process, and physical evidence. So here, as what you already learned previously, that people are a critical component on providing financial service, right? Customers' evaluation of the financial services depends on his or her interaction with the customer contact people, which we call as interactive marketing. For such service, customers may also perceive great variation between services provided by different individuals. So this more tailor-made, all right, is like suitable for specific people. For some specific, for example, services given to elderly people, so they have different requirements, right? For example, people, handicapped people, so they need a special service for them to get, so they need what we call easy way for them to come into the bank, all right? Maybe if they cannot go inside the counter, so the bank customer have to see them, all right, at a what we call a specific place, right, inside the bank, maybe a desk, right, for the handicapped people to make transaction. And sometimes, you know, when we see for example, customers, you know, have a hearing handicap, they cannot hear, right? So they have to the banks also have to think of how to deliver the service to the specific people with special needs, right? So that is why it is very important when in order to anticipate a difference in customers, they have the banks, right? They have to pay very important attention in hiring people, training people, and motivating their staff, their personnel that provides these services to ensure that good quality and also consistency in delivery to their customers. So very important that the staff have to be trained how to handle these special need customers, right? So because if without training, the staff wouldn't know what to do, or they don't have the standard operating procedures. We call this SOP. It's very important in banks to have manuals, what to do. We call this SOP, standard operation procedures. Now let us see the delivery sequence that always look into how financial service can be delivered. So we call this in financial service process. All right. So the process involves largely interaction between customers and the service organization. So it is not one stop transaction as what we can see in the distribution of goods or physical goods. So they have what we call interlink steps for services in financial products. So let us see next, what are these processes? So usually customer, step 1, customer meets a bank customer service representative to seek loan. For example, this service for loan, right? Number 2, what is next step? Example, right, is the customer may ask several questions about the terms, what will be the requirements, okay? And then in this process of loan, right, the customer service representative, right, the staff will then ask several questions for preliminary screening. So this is the process, asking question. Then later meet for loan, and then the next step, right? The application is then evaluated more thoroughly, and then credit worthiness to the customer is being assessed. This credit worthiness is very important, which is looking at whether or not the customer that applied the loan has the capability, the what you call they can pay the loan. Basically, that is credit worthiness. If they don't have the ability to pay the loan back when they get the money, so it is very risky for banks to give the loan. So credit worthiness is very important to be evaluated and determined by the bank on the customer. So a lot of information can be evaluated on credit worthiness. So that is another way we will learn later in banking. Now the next step is looking at if everything is in order, the loan will then be approved and customer will later be informed the next step. And then nextly is number 6. There are some other steps before customer could get the money, right? And then the 7th step is after every process has been done, approval has been given, then the basically collection of or called interest and principal by the bank will be monitored by the bank, right? So customer has to pay back the loan, right? Principal plus interest. And also banks also have to keep updating customers on that loan account. So this is the example of what steps of process that can be what call outlined, right, in a particular loan service. Now, as mentioned, financial services tend to be intangible in nature, so the physical facility of a financial service provide therefore become important in providing physical evidence of the quality of the distribution system. They provide tangible cues to let customer evaluate services of the provider. Example, building, layout, location of the bank, the ambience, okay, how the customer feel inside the building, all right. Physical certification, securities are all examples of physical evidence. Even the appearance of the customer contact personnel, the staff, and then the clothes that they wear could also be a part of the physical evidence, because anything that the customer can see with their eyes, okay, this is I'm drawing the eyes, okay, anything that is seen by the eyes, okay, is very important. Okay, so that is one example of what the eye can see. Okay, moreover, home banking facility are linked to the telephone, the internet, and video text network. Telemarketing is also increasingly used to approach customer at their home and also at their work. Now, corporate electronic banking is a new means of distributing banking services targeted to corporate customers. Its unique feature brings large number of benefits to the banks and customer also. For instance, a customer can retrieve information related to accounts, investment in other projects, companies, and prices of securities in real time. Bank can also initiate necessary transaction automatically in response to customer requests, such as funds transfer, opening letter of credit through its e-bank network. So this is what in the commercial side, all right, of customer, for example, companies, they all needs this access of information. The result is fast, reliable, accurate, and personalized service of corporate customer located anywhere in the world, right? So this self-study, right, I hope that you can do some little bit of study about corporate electronic banking. You can see on Google anywhere, no problem. Now let us see that the influence of distribution strategy. Financial services distribution is the subject to changes in the environment. Now basically we can see that there are three main sources that can influence the distribution strategy. So number one is looking at technology, right? Number two is customer preference, and then number three is competition. So the competition, right, is the way financial services distribute by competition usually contributes to the change in buyers' buying behavior. And then for example, insurance company, right, started providing services at home beyond the normal hours. Now looking at the technology part, the application of technology in financial service delivery allows improvement of the bank's distribution system productivity, enlarging the geographical and timing availability of services offered, and generate more convenience to the service user. Example, today many insurance company, right, the credit card companies, and as well as banks provide customer service around the clock thanks to the development of computer and telecommunication technology. This is what is happening right now with digital banking. So next, also we look into the third influence to the product distribution strategy. Okay, how influence it is. So customer preference, looking at the customer are now increasingly seeking greater control and greater convenience in receiving financial service. So service transaction needs to be more transparent to meet the control requirements of customer and a huge number of new distribution methods. For example, long hours banking, telebanking have been developed to give more convenience to customers. Then the distribution channels. Let's look a little bit about the distribution channels of financial services or banks. So basically, the financial service distribution channels come in many forms, ranging from high to low personal contact between providers and receivers. So providers is usually the bank, and receivers is usually a customer. Now below are some of the main distribution channels. For example, branch networks, direct sales force, telemarketing, direct mail, some technology facilities, for example, ATM. So this is example for technology facilities. Now next, in looking at the branch network, this is a traditional distribution channel where personal contact is at the highest degree. Then, however, there is a decreasing emphasis on this distribution channel in the more developing economies because of the high investment and operational costs, and the rise of new and cheaper distribution facility, for example, ATM, credit card. So this branch becoming less of important for banks to consider in their when they want to choose their distribution channel. So let's look at next distribution channels. So the direct sales force, similar to the benefits provided by branch networks, direct service sales force is characterized by high interaction with customers. So usually these are the marketing people. Okay. It is also a flexible channel since it has the ability to provide service at the customer convenience and place. Usually, so we can see that people in the marketing, where they marketing people in the banking, so they are more want to meet customer at any place that the customer is available, right? So we can see example of products is credit cards, right? So we can see marketing people, they promote their product at the supermarket, shopping mall. So when they promote the product, usually they will wait, to meet people, to meet new people, and to explain product at the shopping places, because if the customer interested to see or to hear more, so the marketing people will talk more of the banking product to them. So let's see the next channel, telemarketing, using, for example, telephone. So thanks to the telephone, telemarketing is an efficient way to reach customers. So telephone conversation enables financial service providers, the salespeople, to identify customer-specific needs and tailor-make suitable services. So this is how telemarketing, talking specific product to customers. So for example, this example, okay, First Direct Bank. Now we also have they have also direct mail. So many financial service offer services to customers by mail. So direct mail helps provide information and promotes service to customers. Although it is not does not have a high personnel contact or interaction in relation with branch network and telemarketing, advice could be offered, money could be withdrawn and deposited, and insurance policies is delivered through mails, right? So all emails right now. Okay. Now technology facilities. Okay. The last part in the distribution channel, to increase the productivity of financial service distribution and to meet customer preference, banks have been using technology such as ATM, automating vending machines, right, and other related technologies. For example, digital banking, mobile banking, the what you call facility, internet banking, right, providing the platform, providing the what you call online interaction, right, the websites, right. So these are technology related. The application of technology not only helps reduce operation costs of the distribution channels, but also creates opportunities for creating customer value. So this is where the more opportunity that the bank can deliver service to customer, the better opportunity for banks to create value or something important of their bank service to give to customer. So this is what we call customer value. Now, looking at the promotion strategy, the final part in the marketing mix, let us look at this. How does promotion strategy is being developed in using marketing mix? So, promotion involve efforts by the organization to communicate with its customer to build image, reputation, differentiation from its competitors, attract customers, and educate about their service product. Therefore, it is very important to look into the promotion mix, the elements that is included in here in this promotion. So let's see now. First is advertising. Okay, what is being used by bank to promote? Okay, number one is advertising. For example, television, radio, movies, newspaper, personal selling. Okay, this is one part of the way promotion is conducted using sales presentation, telemarketing. sales promotion is being used. Okay, for example, contests, coupons, rebates. Right. Sometimes banks provide gifts. Right, when new customer open account. Usually young kids. Right, they use to get gift. Okay, and then public relation also can be used as a promotion strategy. For example, reports, media publication. Right. Now, there are some critical points of difference according to this person, Gary and Barry, 1981. It is important to recognize that financial service are intangible performance, not as actually an object, right? Advertising should be directed not only at customer but also to the employees, because it is better to use employees, not professional models, to advertise. So that is how they to create more real experience when using stuff. Advertising must tangible. Intangible financial service provide tangible clues such as employees, physical facilities, physical symbol, such as the advertising, they give a picture of what is travelers insurance company, umbrella, okay, or maybe the t-shirt that they give to customer, or the bag. So this is something that can be seen, right? So this is how promotion can use, how advertising can be a tangible, something that can be seen, can be touched. But basically to show services of the bank. Now, next is also to capitalize also, according to that person, the word of mouth advertising by trying to stimulate this very credible form of communication for financial services. So word of mouth is very important, because once banks promote the product to customers, so the customers can also talk this what they see, what they saw in the promotion with their friends, with their family. So when customers start talking with other people, then it is a way of indirectly promoting the bank. If they are talking in good points, but also it can be a negative part if something bad news is happening about the bank and it's spread to other people. So that also can be negative aspect of promotion. Now, ensure continuity over through the use of recognizable symbol, spokesperson, music, and etc. And finally, the person say, advertising must create realistic expectation of the service without promising too little or too much. So, because when we banks advertise, right, they cannot be showing something that is not logical for the service. For example, giving service in the moon, banking service in the moon, as the moon there is no one, right? So people or customer, they cannot imagine using banking in the moon. So that is not logical. So they have to keep advertising, even though that they want to attract people to see the message or the picture, but the banks have to consider to go down and to actually be more factual about their services, be what you call more direct in their message, because promotion involve message. What will the customer understand from the advertising? Then let us see next in the promotion strategy. So here people for this one is very different. Okay, people play not only a big role in distribution but also promotion of the financial service. So let's see that. Okay, personal interaction and relationship between customer and providers are critical for the success of many services. So this is due to the tangible and risk factors associated with the financial services. So promotion of a financial service is also a process. Okay, also a process as what we understand about the product strategy. So in promotion strategy is also a process, something like steps that needs to be followed. They need time, which is the customer, okay, need time to perceive the benefits and become knowledgeable about it. The customers also have a comparison shop with competing products before making the final decision. It is critical for financial service providers to recognize this process and guide customers through it. So the need for physical evidence. Let's see what is this part, physical evidence in promotion. So basically looking at how the services is being packaged. Packaging can also be a form of physical evidence, right? Because packaging is also a way to promote the product. If in a product itself, we can see that a product physically is packaged using boxes. In the box they have the information about the company that produced the product, okay, physical product, and so many things. But for services, how can customers see physically, right? But anyway, services can be packaged, and the packaging is in terms of information. For example, what is being added into the service, for example, the core and the supplementary service. So that is how packaging means in services. And to facilitate the communication of information such as the brand name and direction of usage, it also helps promoting the product by differentiating the product and features and benefits. So in packaging of this product, right, the package, the core and the supplements, they have to explain. The banks have to provide information how to use the product. For example, maybe the bank provide a short video, right, how to use, for example, internet banking or mobile banking, right? So this short video will provide information for the customer in the direction to use, right? So this is a way to promote the product in forms of information. Now, for example, here is a bank may have an integrated credit card product. So example, at the same time, a credit card, ATM card and discount card can be packaged to participating retail establishment. Right? For example, Hong Kong Bank had a housing loan scheme available to employees of Rothman. This is a company, right, who were charged with a lower interest than the market. So this is a way of packaging, right? What will be the something special that is put, right? Benefits to the customer. That is how banks can think of putting that product to be more interesting, to be seen positive by the bank. All right, sorry about that. Looking at the final part, looking at the price strategy. So let's look here. Here, price strategy is price in financial services industry goes under different names. For example, interest rates, right? Fees, commission. So this is a price strategy. So let's look into more detail how price strategy is being used by banks. And this price strategy is very important for banks to actually implement. And this will determine whether a product will be successful or will fail in the market or not. So pricing of a financial service is like other products, subject to some basic influence such as cost, customer sets, competitor, constraints. Now let's look at number one, the cost. Costs include variables and fixed costs. So something that change, so that is variable. So it can go up, down, and it can be fixed cost, so something will not change in a long time. So this difference in the cost is associated with producing the service. Variable cost tends to be relatively small compared to fixed costs in most service organizations, including financial service. In financial service organization, the risk associated with lending money or writing an insurance policy could all be included as part of the cost. The higher the risk, the higher the price needed to cover the cost. Now, looking at the customer, the value of the service as perceived by the customer determines maximum price he or she is willing to pay for the service. Note, it is the perceived and not actual value that matters in price, right? So that is very important. Organization benefits if it is able to convince customer that the value that the customer pay for the service is high, is considered very valuable. So that is the perception of banks must give to customer. A strong brand name, company reputation, past performance and reliability are among the factors that affect the value associated with service of the bank. So these are important consideration. If the bank doesn't have a good brand name, if the bank doesn't have a good company reputation, doesn't have a very good past performance, or even they don't have a reliability, or they don't have trust among the customer, how can the bank charge higher cost? So they cannot expect customer to pay expensive, right? If they don't have all of these criteria. So that is very important to consider for banks before they charge the customer. Then the next step is looking at competition also. So here, financial service providers often use competitors' price benchmark. So benchmark is like a reference rate. So they look at what other banks price their product and then compare that prices with what the bank is going to charge to customer. Because of course if they want their product that the bank want to offer to customer is acceptable, so they have to give a what you call a logic price, or the price that is acceptable by the customer. So that is why banks use other banks' prices as reference. So we call this benchmark as reference. Refer. Okay. Now next, there are three options available looking at the competitor. So number one, the price can be higher than the competitors, alright, which is becoming premium price. The price can also be set lower than the competitor. So this is what we call penetrating price, okay, cheaper than the competitor. And or the price can be at par, which is the same price with the competitor. So we call this parity pricing. So look here, okay, competitors benchmark is a highly differentiated service tends to be premium price. What is highly differentiated means that something that that product is specially produced by the bank. No other banks provide such quality as compared to other banks, so they can charge premium. Then in the market where customers are price sensitive, so companies with lower cost structure may become successful in penetrating price, right? And then finally, where price competition is injurious, means that can be impact to the banks, okay? So the banks have to be very careful when they want to charge a price, right? So no company has superior cost advantage. So companies are better off, or the banks are better off, maintaining the price at par, right? At the same price with other competitors. So they don't want to burden themselves not to get the customer. So they were going to have a same price, and the banks will try to compete to get customer to buy the product using other factors of marketing that can influence the customer judgment. So the constraints, let us look at the constraints lastly in our slide. So here, financial service industry in many countries are regulated by government, and much of the pricing rely beyond the control of individual firms. So basically, government also look into how banks price the product. So that is one aspect that we have to look. For example, because price in a bank is usually interest rate. So the interest rate is something that is closely monitored by the central banks. Bank negara, central banks or BNM set the interest rates, and individual bank may not have a lot of freedom in influencing them. For example, the statutory reserve rate ratio, liquidity ratio, capital adequacy ratio. So all these are something that is controlled by Bank Negara Malaysia. So for banks to offer products, loan products to customer, when they want to look at the pricing or try to determine which price, they also have to look at the government pricing levels. Okay, so the organization has to take the price as given and work backwards. So means that, example is that if, for example, that the such interest rate is being given by the central bank as 5%, so usually the government, right, say that it cannot be higher than 5%. So what will be used by the company or the bank, they will try to work their way in determining the price backward. So means that they will look into factors, for example, cost, okay, and then profit which they want to get, right? So then they will determine which price is best to get based on this information. So that is why working backwards, not the other way around. Okay, I think that we finished our lecture for this topic, chapter number 3. So I hope that all of you understand what is being discussed here, and I hope that if you have any more knowledge that you want to seek, always you can look at the textbook that we use in our class. All right, and also you can also look into websites of the bank, or you can also Google information that is what we have discussed in our session today. So thank you very much for your attention. So thank you, and we hope to see you again. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Bye.